Former Olympic champion Penny Heyns has told Newzroom Afrika that young South African girls need more female role models. Heins has been named as an ambassador for the 2020 GSport Awards, which rewards women in the field of sport.
Rocco Meyering kind of drew on the expertise of some of the foreign coaches that have had success in the past. I think a problem, it's twofold. One is our ladies perhaps didn't have those role models, people a little bit closer to their era than what I was. And for a time, the boys had that. But I think that the other aspect to it is that coaching girls is different. And predominantly the swimming coaching staff in South Africa, at least the top elite coaches, tend to be more male. There are a few female coaches. And when girls go through those puberty years, you tend to hit a plateau. It's very difficult to get through that. And I think a lot of our top swimmers, they do really great when they're age group swimmers. And when they go through that plateau, especially if they've been very successful as a young swimmer, it becomes very difficult to keep that motivation going. But hopefully now with the likes of Tatiana, and it's interesting to note that Tatiana's really come into her talent post, let's say, those puberty years as an older athlete, more mature athlete, and we're starting to see that among our other girls now as well. They sort of in their 19s, 20s, and I think that's really what we want, because that's when you're at your strongest.
You mentioned that the current generation may not have an icon to look up to in their particular era, but I have no doubt that when you do stand up on stage in various G Sports Awards, you have to be seen as one of those icons. I mean, the event has been doing incredible things for well over a decade now, and many would argue, especially during this very difficult time for South African women during this fight against gender-based violence, that being able to promote strong female icons, strong female names, athletes, those in the media, etc., is crucially important to South Africa at this time.
Definitely. I think the initiative that Kaz Naidu and Rake Meyering, her husband, started in 2006, and then very impressively have been able to grow this initiative, obviously with the likes of sponsors like Momentum and in the past, I think Spar. It's really great that they've been able to recognize the female talent and then not only that, the current talent, but to keep those of us who are sort of from a former generation involved in all of this. So definitely GSport has given me the opportunity to still play a role in being an ambassador as I am now, in the past a trustee, to be able to help nominate and promote and recognize our up-and-coming talent.
The joy about the G Sports Awards is that it's not just about those that are on the field as well, because there's a wonderfully huge amount of people that, perhaps weren't blessed with the talent to become professional sportsmen, but dedicate a huge amount of time to covering the sports and giving it its value as well. So what a wonderful opportunity for those that perhaps aren't athletes themselves, but can certainly be involved in G Sports and play a massive role in the event itself.
Definitely. I think, my experience post-retirement is now that I'm a little bit, I don't want to say I'm in an administrative role, but I am playing a role a little bit more behind the scenes. And I realize so much more that we as players on the field, we're not the main show, or at least it looks like we are, but behind the scenes there's so many people giving their life towards the sport longer than perhaps our careers would last as players. And so I think it's great that GSport Awards are recognizing the ladies that are making a difference, be it in social media, in print. Without the media, we would be nothing really. Nobody would know. Several other awards that are so important, the volunteers. And I think without volunteers, we wouldn't really exist, would we?
Absolutely. You mentioned the media. It's funny how we seem to lose track of time, because we put our eyes on certain individuals and certain athletes, and we look back when they were perhaps 20, 23 years old, and you kind of forget that a decade goes by, and all of a sudden they're well in their 30s, and you seem to feel as if you are still the same young journo that was covering it. But you mentioned the broadcasters. Surely they play a massive role in being able to, put the sport out there, and we want to start seeing a lot more female sport being put on South African television screens.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think it's commendable that the broadcasters are growing the female recognition, but like you say, we need more and more of that, and the likes of initiatives like GSport and promoting people in media on the various platforms, be it social media, broadcasting, whatever. It's very important for us as female athletes. Otherwise, there's no hope in us sort of gaining in the playing field against the males.
What a wonderful opportunity to catch up with former Olympic champion Penny Heyns, and she makes a very valid point. We need to start seeing a lot more female sports taking place on television screens when we are able to overcome COVID-19.